He was an ordinary man. He did his vocation. He lived it to the best of his ability. He did the simple things. And but at the end of his life, he was called to do something extraordinary, and he didn't think twice about it. He grew up on a farm in South Dakota, and he died on a farm. So kind of the bookends of his life. But loved the farm. Learned a lot, especially when it comes to work ethic and trust that you do growing up on a farm in the 50s and 60s, and that's the main source of income. He jokes that he started playing sports in high school because he didn't have hot water at home, and that was the best way for him to get a hot shower. Turns out he was a good athlete. He played basketball and football growing up, and then had a math mind, so he majored in math at Creighton University. Married my mom. She was kind of the typical story, right? He's the rural farm boy, and she was the city girl, and they got married. He joined the Navy, flew A-7s off carriers, served a tour in Tonkin Gulf, flew off the USS America. A couple fun stories that he related to us of landing at night on the carrier. He talked about being one of the most thrilling experiences. And flying was kind of in his blood, so after he flew for the military, he flew commercially. Raised 7 sons. I'm one of 7, and the youngest, Joseph, was born in 1987. He was born with Down syndrome. It's a great gift to our family with Down syndrome. Mom and Dad threw themselves into everything they did for him, and yeah, Dad just kind of lived a life of service and sacrifice, doing the ordinary things that he was called to do by God, day in and day out, and that kind of led him to be able to give the ultimate sacrifice at the end. Growing up on a farm, there's a built-in trust, especially when it comes to crops and animals, right? And so you learn to trust and trust God especially. And so I think early on, Dad really had that trust. And I think if you trust in God and his promises, that can revolutionize how you live. Right, and it can allow you to live very free, but also very intentional with how you treat other people and how you and what you believe God wants you to do. So I think that trust, along with a solid foundation of faith, of going to the sacraments, just kind of that simplicity for my dad was enough, and it was just, yes, I believe this. And as a result, I internalize this, and as a result of me believing it, it is going to dictate how me and my wife live, how I live as a man, and how I'm going to raise my family. He was a quiet man, been called a just man by priests before. He was kind of a St. Joseph in that respect. He's not prone to talk, likes to be in the background, but always in the background looking for ways to help and to serve. So that said, he was very driven. He was determined. I don't think you get your master's in actuary science by just sitting around. So he was driven, motivated, loved flying. But in one sense, he was a people person because he loved people, and he was that type of person where you were the only one in the room, right? And he had this infectious smile that people were just drawn to him, and whether or not it was adults or youth. I mean, he worked a lot with youth because he coached all his sons in sports and volunteered to coach other times. But he was a man of faith. Him and Mom's faith was paramount. It was the priority, and that kind of fed everything. And so generally, he was pretty even keel. Like if you wanted to fire my dad up, you would say something disrespectful to my mom, which unfortunately growing up we did, and we heard very quickly, what did you just say to your mother? And go to your room and wait for me. The other thing that kind of would fire Dad and Mom up is if you mess with their faith, and if you messed with the education of their sons, especially the Catholic education of their sons. They believe very strongly in not only education but formation, and so if they heard something from the pulpit that didn't jive with what their understanding of the Catholic Church was, or they their kids were getting taught something, that would kind of rile them up as parents, because they took that role as the teachers and the educators, primarily of the faith, as parents, very seriously. Otherwise, I mean, Dad, and he loved to laugh, loved to have the family around. Didn't have to be, like I said, didn't have to be the center of attention, but loved to kind of sit back and observe. Sometimes when the families would have barbecues in the summer or go on vacation, he would just be sitting in an armchair just laughing his head off, but totally fine. He just loved to watch the family interact. I'm sure it gave him and Mom a sense of pride. Just a joyful, humble servant who was also very talented. And he's one of these guys, he could fix anything. He gave great advice. A lot of people went to him for advice for all different things, whether or not it was career or relationship, athletics. But at the same time, one of the virtues a lot of people talk about is his humility, is he would never brag about it. I've even talked with pilots that flew with him, and they just said, he was a very good pilot, but you would never know it, and he wouldn't tell it to you. He was just a humble man, and also he I think another characteristic as a father, right, and this is one of my friends, is he was not going to put limitations on Joseph, who had Down syndrome. And looking back, I think that's kind of what he strove to with all his sons also, is he was not going to be the one in certain areas, obviously, when it came to character development, there were limitations, or discipline.